And that was my prayer going in the game. It was not to win the game. It was to glorify God without fear. I didn't want to be fearful. And that was the best part about that game was it was the most peaceful, fun, laid-back game I've ever played.
All right, we're on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Days Off pod by Dad Season. With you as always, John McCarthy.
Nick Foles.
And of course, we got Roddy on the tools, folks.
How we doing, guys?
Well, today we are going to take a trip back to 2017. But first, you just got back from the NFC Championship game. Anything you want to share? How was that experience?
It was unbelievable. I was asked to be honorary captain for the NFC Championship game for the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's always a joy to go back to Philly and being in that environment. And, back in, 2017, 2018 season, when we played against the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC Championship game, that was always one of my favorite memories as an Eagle, just because of the crowd. I remember warm-ups. We were about to do 7-on-7 period, and there was a, Meek Mill song came on, and the crowd was just live, rowdy, loud, having fun. The players were having fun, dancing around everywhere. And I remember I just told the coaches, like, hey, just give them a sec. Like, I took like 2 or 3 minutes to lay the 7-on-7, and I just took it in. I just want to take in that energy, take in that moment, because you know what? Those moments don't always come around, if ever. And I just saw the joy and the energy of my teammates, of the fans. So going back this time around, not as a player, but as a, alumni, a person who played there that retired as an Eagle earlier this year or last year, it was really special to be a part of that, to go to midfield, represent the team, and then sit with Mr. Lurie in the box and just watch the game as a fan. And then, I actually got to present the George Halas Trophy to, my favorite owner in professional sports, Jeffrey Lurie. And that was a great honor to be on stage, get to say something real quick to the fans, to him, and then just let them celebrate. So it's always a joy. We have fun going back. Tori and I got to go, just us, no one else. So we really got to go to our, favorite spot to eat. We love going to like this place called Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Chad and Hannah have always been awesome to us. So we got to reminisce on old times, because my last several weeks as a Philadelphia Eagle in the playoffs in 2019, after the 18 season, we went there every Friday. So it was a really special weekend, and that's sort of why we're in this bad boy. We're going to release this on Super Bowl week. I never wear this ring. It always is a representation of the city, of the Eagles, of my teammates, and what we did. And I leave it as that. But I felt like today, just wearing this bad boy on this podcast, it's sort of heavy. But
Dude,
if y'all see it on YouTube, I'm sure there'll be some clips here.
That thing is so...
Yeah, I'm gonna let John take a...
Dude, I'm scared. I'm scared to even touch it. But this thing is so sick. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Unreal. Wow. What does it feel like wearing that thing? I mean...
It's crazy. I haven't put it on too many times, honestly. Like, there's occasionally I'll look at it, and then if there's friends or family or whoever wants to see it, I'll let them see it, but it sort of stays hidden. I'm not going to say where, because there's going to be people listening, but it's I look at it and, man, I just think about my teammates, about the coaches, Mr. Lurie right here on stage with me, with Terry Bradshaw, Big Dom in the back. I had to have my a paragraph sort of planned out. I didn't know I was going to be speaking and doing all this, but it was really special and a great honor for me with this man right here who drafted me back in 2012. So full circle moment for me, and just seeing the joy in the players' faces and Coach Sirianni's face, Coach Stoutland, all the guys, Kellen Moore. It's truly a special place to play. I'll always be an Eagle, and, we're going to talk a lot about that today. So this is going to be a really fun episode for me, for the fans, and, everyone preparing for the Super Bowl. It's a big week for Philadelphia. It's a big week for all us ex-players, so we're really excited.
You're right. We got a great one today.
Yes, we do.
So should we just jump right in?
Let's jump right in. Let's get this going.
Yeah, let's transport ourselves back to 2017.
Yes.
Walk us through. I mean, not just, the beginning of that season, but you became a father.
2017, my wife, Tori, and I, we had Lily June 16th. So it's funny because Tori's June 6th, and then Lily's June 16th, and then Duke years later is June 12th. And so June is just like, Tori's birthday sort of gotten lost a little bit, but she'll always be taken care of. I'll always treat her. She's my wife, and I love her so much. Had to add that in there.
Yeah, that's good.
This is a family podcast.
Out of the doghouse now.
Out of the dog. I think so, hopefully. But that was sort of life changing in the sense that like having a daughter, and we didn't know what we were gonna have, or maybe we did. No, we knew with Lily. We didn't know with Duke. Duke came in the world, just exploded out, just ready to roll. We knew with Lily, and it just melts your heart. And we were free agents. We had just played in Kansas City, and we were trying to navigate the free agency market, and also like really thinking about our family and thinking about Lily. And there was an opportunity to go to Tampa Bay. And, Dirk Cutter was the coach there at the time. I actually committed to him in college as a high school player. So there was a relationship there. And then Philly came in and wanted me to come back. But I had to get over, at first thought is like, man, I was traded away. Like that was one of the toughest parts of my life was being traded to St. Louis. But I grew a lot from it. It made me who I am. It equipped me for the Super Bowl run and all those things. But at that moment, I was like, I don't know. But then I remembered, it wasn't Howie Roseman that did it. It wasn't, all the people that were in place that did it. And I love Philadelphia. So we talked about it a lot. Tampa Bay was actually offering more money because there's a business side of it. But Tori and I just kept coming back to the locker room. The people were there, the way we felt about Philly previously. And we just both agreed at the same time, like, we're going back to Philly. We're going to help a young Carson Wentz. We're going to raise our daughter here as long as we're going to be here, and it's going to be a really special place for us just because how much we love the city from our previous stint. So we ended up back in Philly in 2017 after some going through the free agency, and it was definitely a journey. But having Lily and getting situated, we were in Haddonfield, New Jersey. For everyone in Haddonfield, we lived right near Cherry Hill, and it was a special place. We loved it.
And what was that like when you came back? So where were you just before Philly?
So just before Philly in 2016, I signed with Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, or not in the playoffs, in training camp. Thinking about the current playoffs, we got the Chiefs for the Eagles versus the Eagles matchup, right? So two former teams, but my allegiance is with the Eagles. But I was in 2016 with Andy Reid and the Chiefs, and really found the love of the game again. I didn't love the game after my year in St. Louis. It was a pretty dark time. A lot of struggles, almost left the game of football, talked about it a lot, wrote it in our book, Believe It. But it was through that, like I say, walking through the desert season, just through my faith in Christ. I just wrestled with the Lord. It was just more like, God, like I want to glorify you in all I do, but man, I don't know what to do. And I wasn't picking up the football. I had no love for the game. And there was a moment where I remember Tori and I were talking about it. I just got back from a camping trip with her brother Ryan, and we were fly fishing, having a good time. First time in my life I didn't think about football. And I just was like, I don't know what to do. And I just said a prayer to the Lord. And I just said, I don't know what to do. Please show me. We've all been there. It's like, give me a sign. And my heart sort of calmed, and it was like, Nick, just move. Like, go a direction. You're living in fear. You're not living with me. Like, fear doesn't come from me. Fear comes from the world. Like, I'm with you if you retire and leave the game, and I'm with you if you go back to the game. So my ultimate decision was, what was I afraid of? And I had somehow fear, crept up from the game of football. I just didn't enjoy it. So I'm like, you know what? I need to go back and play the game of football. And I called Andy Reid. We had previously talked about this, and I told him I was done. But I was like, hey, there might be something there in me. And he knew exactly what was going on in my heart, so I didn't hide it from him. But I'm like, you know what? There might be something here. There's like a little sliver of like spark in me. And I know that if it's there, you'll get it out. You drafted me. I have so much admiration for you. So I was in, Kansas City in training camp a couple days later. Felt awkward for 4 days. But the fourth day I was reading the Bible, journaling, about to watch my film very early in the morning. I just started crying because I was excited to play football again. So Kansas City will always be the year that the love of football came back. And I will always be grateful for that year. And that's also where, Tori and I conceived Lily. And Tori was pregnant with Lily. And it was really a funny story is the one thing that she couldn't deal with was the smell of barbecue, being pregnant, and you're in Kansas City with burn ends and stuff. So it was pretty brutal with that part, but truly a special time. And then we end up in Philadelphia, the next year, which ultimately everyone knows the story there, but there's a lot of meat to that story that maybe not everyone knows that we'll try to get into today.
Yeah. Yeah. So walk us through your mindset into that season. It seemed like you had a very enlightened perspective. I'm going to go there and I'm going to support Carson and help him grow. Were you getting reps during the season? And as that moment happened, like, how was your mind?
Yeah, it was, everyone, like, I knew the media in my opening interview was questioning my mindset in the sense of like, all right, you're here to like get back on another team. You're here to take over the job. Like, I was like, no, I'm honestly here to help a young quarterback succeed in Philadelphia, and Carson Wentz, who had an amazing season that season. And I think being a father and going through St. Louis and Kansas City really changed me. I always felt like I could never be a backup quarterback. I always needed to be starting. That's what I needed to be doing. And God sort of broke that part of me and just said, you know what, just be where you're at and glorify me and just like be there and love the individuals you work with. So it was really easy going back, like in my media press conference, just saying how content I was, how grateful I was to be in Philadelphia. But the underlying thing that happened in training camp that people forget about is I tore my elbow. There was an elbow injury in training camp early on. There's a little bit of tenderness and off-season training that was bothering me, but then something happened in training camp and it popped. And I had like a 60% tear of my common flexor tendon in my elbow area. So like everything was inflamed. There was days I couldn't even like throw a football past 5 yards, 10 yards. It was brutal. I had to do PRP therapy a few times. So I missed most of training camp, which was pretty brutal because you re-sign with the team, they pay you to be the backup, and you can't be out there. And as a competitor, that is one of the toughest things because all you're doing is rehabbing. So once the season started, it was good enough to start throwing and playing and backing up Carson. But it would take me about an hour to warm up for practice, and then I'd have to do about an hour to cool down, and then I would go home and do more recovery just so I could throw the next day. And I remember, like, at the beginning part of that season, I told Tori, I was like, if this is what I'm going to have to deal with, like, every time I throw a football, every time I pick it up, it's like a knife going through my elbow, and it is so painful. So that's what I dealt with for that entire season. If you look at clips from me from that year, I'm wearing a arm sleeve on my right arm, and then I wear a half sleeve on my other arm. And that was more just to keep my arm warm and not let the elbow tighten up, because if the elbow got cold, it was brutal. And a lot of quarterbacks deal with these injuries. You see a lot of elbow injuries, and for some reason that was sort of my thorn in the side that year. But it made me lean on my faith every single day, because the only way I was going to get through the day was like, God, it's a reminder that I am merely human, I am merely flesh, and I'm simply here to glorify you and honor you. So it allowed my faith to grow through that injury. But it was a challenge throughout the year.
That's crazy. I didn't know you had that injury.
Yeah, that's why we're here talking. It's fun little tidbits that people don't really get. They just see me holding the Super Bowl trophy, holding Lily, which is an amazing moment. But like, to get to that moment, there's meat, there's a journey. It takes a team, it takes a city. And that's why these conversations are fun on our platform, where you and I get to talk about it, and Hot Rod over there gets to go through it and maybe direct us in another direction. But
his dad in training over there, Mr. Hot Rod.
Exactly.
So Philly, especially that year, but I feel like always embraces the underdog role.
Yep.
And I think when you're a backup, you're also kind of an underdog because people might doubt you. But I want to take a step back and lead into that. Can you tell us kind of your perspective of when Carson went down? What was going through your mind? Because I know you're confident. I know and you're a pressure performer. But was there any doubt, or were you just, all right, next man up, let's go?
Yeah, it was. I'll never forget the moment when Carson scrambled around, ran around the right side in L.A. We had been out there all week. We had worked out at the Angels Stadium because we played Seattle the week before. L.A. is Carson's having an awesome game. I think he had 4 touchdowns that game. So I see him run in, and I see him take the hit, and I see how he gets up. And I know I had been around Carson's a tough dude. He's a very tough dude. He's a great quarterback. I knew from watching him all season something was up. And he stayed in the next play, and I could tell he could not move. And he ended up throwing a touchdown to Alshon Jeffrey, which just shows the competitor he is. But I knew when he was coming off the field that, like, my body started ramping up. Like, inside it, your body just knows when it's game day and you're actually playing. Like, it changes. Bowel movements increase. Mind is intensive. All your senses are heightened. When you're backing up, you always want to prepare like a starter and you do those things, but you try to alleviate all the stress of it, right? Because you're not playing. So what stress does is it does amplify and heighten senses, but also drains energy. So if I'm stressed every single moment of every game, like, I'm going to be pretty exhausted if I have to go in. So you try to keep it light. You try to be a great teammate. But in that moment, the mind knew something's up from being around Carson. And first instance was like, man, I said a prayer. I said a prayer for Carson that everything would be all right, that God would have his hands on him, and that whatever the doctors found out, they would be able to heal. And hopefully there was nothing wrong with him. But then the next instance was like, I have to go in. And there's doubt, there's fear. Everything comes in to all of us in major situations. That's part of life. That is normal. So if you're listening to this and a big opportunity comes, and some people are super excited, they're ready to go. And I've been that way too. But there's also like, man, this is a big stage. I don't know if I can do this. So what do I do in those situations is I take a breath, I close my eyes, I thank God for the moment. I know He's there with me. And my simple thing is I just pray that I glorify You, God. Just simple as that. So when I went back in the huddle and what ran out there on the field, I hadn't had reps with the starters throughout that year. You rep scout team. When you're the backup quarterback, you're giving the defense look. You're running the other team's offense off cards. And sometimes they're telling you to throw at this person. You have to throw interceptions in scout team because the defense needs the look. You can't always just tear apart the defense, which I love doing in scout team. I love tearing apart the defense and throwing no-look passes and all that stuff. But then occasionally the defensive coaches or quality control be like, we need you to throw the pick to this DB because he's really down on himself. So, I'd have to throw a bad pick, but I have to get over that. So this is different. Running out on the field, you're about to play. But I was reminded quickly jumping back in that midnight, I think we were wearing all white, but midnight green huddle with those guys that I'm just one of 11 out here. I am leading the charge, but I have teammates that are right here with me that everyone just needs to do their job. So what I did in my mind was I went back to what does it take to execute? I just have to execute my job, and I trust the O-line to do their job, receivers line up. I just got to get the ball in the playmaker's hands like a point guard. So I was able to do that through the course of the game. Don't remember specific plays in that situation other than there was a third down where Nelson Aguilar was in the slot. It was versus two-man. He had an 8-yard stop route. We had ran it earlier in the game. That was Carson's one play that they got him on. And I knew they were running the same coverage, and it's the perfect coverage to stop this play. But you really need a great slot receiver to recognize the coverage, get into the defender in the slot, and bend away. And then I have to throw it low and away and catch it. And I knew Nelson, who I love, was going to do that. So I was ready. I ripped it. He caught it. First down, game over. We end up, I think, winning the NFC East or clinching a playoff spot or something. But going into that locker room after the game, it didn't feel that way because we lost Carson.
Right.
And that just showed how much he meant to the team, what he had done throughout that season. And I understood it as well. I wanted to be there for him first and foremost. And then, we get back to Philly, and Nate Sudfeld and I are talking because Nate's backing me up. Nate's like a brother to me. I love Nate more than anything. And we're back in there. We're watching film. And the first day back on that Monday or whatever it was, we didn't even watch film. We just got in our little QB it was a storage closet basically. And we made it we had a little blender. We had decorations. We had the mountains over here, the beach over here, Christmas lights everywhere. It's a cool little sanctuary, but it's a tiny little box that we had as QBs. And we just talked about life, man. We were both going through a lot. There was a lot of pressure on us. And finally, we just started laughing. We're like, man, the whole city of Philadelphia is dependent on us too. Dang. But I think keeping it light, keeping it honest with the brother meant a lot. And then I knew that I wasn't alone. Every single time I went out there and rep plays and practice and stuff, I had Nate right there with me. And then when Carson got healthy enough, he was back in that QB room with us as well. And it was really an awesome QB room in that sense. And it gave me comfort. And that's why, team sports are so special is you develop these bonds going through the fire. And you see people's personalities through the fire. You don't see them when things are going great. People don't show their true personalities when you're winning everything and everything's a mountaintop experience. You see it when you're in the valley and when things are tough and your back's against the wall and everyone doubts you. You see who your true friends are and who the true brothers are. So that's why Philadelphia has a special locker room is those guys, that's a family. That's a brotherhood. Every team preaches it. Not every team is. And Philadelphia has consistently found a way to be that way.
It's awesome. Yeah, you have to be grateful for those obstacles because they reveal who you are.
Yes.
And if you don't face them, then you never really know who you are. It's just awesome to see how you stepped up. But I want to live with you in that moment a little bit because even when you go back to the locker room, did you know what Carson's injury was? Everyone assumes it's bad.
Yeah, we didn't know specifics. He had to get an MRI the next day. And then we sort of, I either Doug called me or brought me in his office and just let me know he's out for the season. It was a very intense knee injury that needed, he was going to have a journey. It was going to be surgically repaired, and it was going to be a process for him, and I was going to be with him the rest of the way starting. And then Nate obviously was going to be the backup to me. And so
now you're thrust into that spotlight.
Yeah, you're thrust into it, and that's the life of a backup. And that's why, the backup quarterback is very important. Not only are you a part of the team and the culture of the team, part of your knowledge in the QB room and the conversations and being there for the starter and giving the defense looks. But like when you're called upon, like it's hard to win a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback because it's a different mentality. It's a different person. It's a different stage. So that's why it doesn't happen often.
And it wouldn't be the Dad Season podcast if we didn't go back to the point that you're also a new dad at this phase.
Yeah, and that's the point of this conversation is dive into the life part. Like the football part, the statistics, the highlights, those are pretty well documented. But the life, so like what was that? I mean, it was it put things in perspective for me. I would always go into the facility. We get there like 6 a.m., 6:15. I think we were like 5:45, and I was like, man, I need a little bit more sleep. I got like a 6-7-month-old at home. Like, so let's go like 6:15. And we would get a lot of film. We get a couple hours of film study before the day actually started. And the reason I did that was your brain's a lot fresher in the morning. I had a way of going in. We had a cryo chamber. So I'm big into, and we'll talk about biohacking and optimizing the body in other episodes. But sort of my strategy was like, get in the morning, cryo, get the mind up, study. And I say that because once the day was over, I did not linger. The meeting ended. I said bye, and I left. I didn't do extra. My extra work was in the morning because I got home, and I wanted to see Lily at night, and I wanted to be with Tori. So I would get home at 6:37, right before Lily's bed, get to be there with her for, half hour to an hour. And I just remember some of my favorite moments where, we would dance to like some Ed Sheeran songs. And we would also dance. Maroon 5 or Adam Levine came out with one of those with all the girls, and like I would dance with my daughter every night to those songs.
I think that was the year of Levine, right?
Yeah,
where like every song was just a Maroon 5 banger.
He was crushing it, but like my favorite part at night was dancing with my daughter before bed. And I got to have those moments with Lily throughout the season because I wasn't just gonna like all of a sudden I'm starting and I'm not gonna see my daughter. My daughter was giving me strength. She was the one that was motivating me, along with Tori. And Tori was so instrumental in that process because she was going through a lot as well because she knows I have all this pressure on me, and then it amplifies everything with her because now everyone wants to come to games. She has to orchestrate that. Who's staying at the house? What are we going to do for dinner? Am I cooking dinner? Are we going out after? What is it? There's a lot of different moving parts that these wives do that keep the players' minds clean and simple. But every night, we put Lily down. I danced with her, and then Tori and I would sit at our kitchen counter and we would just talk, like, what's going on with you? What am I going through? And I would share all my emotions with her. She would share them with me. And it was really important to download each other. And we got it out there and we were able to discuss to clear our mind. And, maybe we'd watch a TV show just to reset, and then we go to bed. And, there'd be occasions while we're watching, I'm always reviewing the game plan and stuff, but I tried to keep it simple at home. I wanted home to be home. And then, you go back to work the next day and you just keep doing that. But that was always the thing, was my priority was to be the best husband I could to Tori and obviously be the best daddy I could be to Lily. And that made it so special because when I was going to step away from the game in St. Louis, the toughest part after that season of potentially doing that, and in my heart thinking I was I always wanted a child while I played the game of football. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to have that like training camp, like I come after practice and I get to hold my kid with my wife. And then we get to look back on those photos someday and be like, your dad used to be an athlete. Now he's trying his best in pickleball and stuff. And that's where I'm at now. But I was so grateful for the Lord for, one, finding the love of the game again, and two, blessing me with a child while playing the game. And he blessed me with 3 to play the game. That, looking back on my career, it's not the Super Bowl. It's not touchdowns. It's not all these things. It's like I am just so grateful I had my kids to be a part of a little bit of that journey.
Wow. To have a goal to have a kid while you're playing football, to then be holding Lily on stage at the Super Bowl, and then her going viral. Yeah. That's pretty wild. No, and we'll get there.
No, it truly is. Like, even talking about it, because you don't talk about this every day, right? Like, right. You just go through life, and right now we're just got 3 kids running. I just, right before this, we were at Lily's school, and it was a book reading thing, and she read a book to us, and then we commented on like, hey, what's the character feeling, what's going on? She had some hot cocoa, and we got to write something that she did really well. Tori and I were there. There's a lot of parents in each room, and it's really cool, like, just to be here, to be engaging, to see her grow and her brothers grow as as her father is really special. And I know, looking at the photos, we have some photos in the house of her on the Super Bowl stage, and I can tell she always smiles, and then she smiles because she knows her brothers didn't get that.
Classic. So you and Tori would meet every night, and did this continue? Was this kind of like something that you would do during the playoff run?
Oh yeah.
And were you downloading your fears? Like, did you have
Everything.
that space with Tori, and you could do that?
Oh, absolutely. Fears, struggles, confident. And we'll get into confident later. There's a confidence moment that she laughs at. Everything. And you know what? There might have been some wine involved too. There was definitely some wine involved with conversations, but not only that was also when I started journaling. I had so much emotion going on inside my heart that it was sort of trapped. So I think there was just one day, and I still have the journal. I was looking for it the other day. I wanted to bring it, but I don't know where I put it. We wrote the Believe It book using the journal, which is awesome. So if anyone has not read the Believe It book, there is a book, Believe It, My Journey of Success, Failure, and Overcoming the Odds.
It's awesome.
But yeah, I was able to download all my feelings and what was going on each day in that journal. And then the conversation with Tori, and then I'm always in scripture, doing devotionals on the YouVersion Bible app or Logos Bible app. I have to, and even in my when I use tablets and stuff, whether it was, right here, I got the Samsung tablet, or I've used all different tablets throughout my career. I have my playbooks on here and I take all my notes, but I would even put Bible verses that were pertaining to what I was going through, on my play sheets. So as I'm taking notes, it was a constant reminder of I'm not doing this alone. I'm doing this to glorify God. And also I have a great community within this organization. So all that really helped me through that time. And that also, allowed Tori and I's relationship as a married couple and best friends to continue to grow. I'm grateful that I married my best friend. Not only am I super attracted to her in all the ways that you want to be as a husband, she's my best friend, and we are able to have those conversations. And even to this day, we still do them. Fortunately, I don't have to download her every single night like I did then. It's like once every couple weeks. Now, when I retired, it was a lot, but it's not as much. But we have that ability, so it sort of created that foundation. So it's special.
And she's playing an instrumental role in Dad's season too, which is super cool to then continue to grow your relationship into all these new I don't know, facets or whatever you call it.
No, I think it's awesome. I mean, Pat's wife Shelby is a huge part of Dad's season and helping, developing, all the distributorship, the Spotify and everything in between. Tori worked at Nike out of college, so she did a lot of online retail with the running. And she was a, athlete at University of Arizona, got her degree from the business school, Eller Business School. She's a lot smarter than me. And the communication school at Arizona is awesome. And I knew when I was doing it, I would need to be an effective communicator someday, hopefully. And it's just funny, now we're on a podcast and I get to use my degree every single day as it pertains to communication. So thank you, University of Arizona.
U of A Communication School must be solid.
Oh,
you're killing it.
It's a fantastic school. And I might add, Tori designed these mom season hats that we have. So we have a lot of new hats coming out. We have some performance hats. So she's doing a lot of design. She checks me on my design thoughts and color schemes and stuff. But we got a great team. Boom. I love them. So grateful for her, and it's so much fun, getting to work alongside her. She's a beast. She keeps me in line because I sort of go off different directions. She just, she's been here at the office when we've had our meetings, right? And she just locks everyone back in. So
she's great.
She's a beast.
She's the North Star. Just keeps it going. Keeps it moving forward. Okay, so what a year. Holy cow. And so many incredible lessons for, I think, dads to take away. One of the things that I'm learning from you is when you're at work, be fully at work. When you're at home, be fully at home.
Yeah.
You relied a lot on your faith to just get you through moments of doubt, right?
Yes.
And so now let's just stay in this moment, the playoff run. There's a moment where you're like, wait, okay, I can do this. I'm feeling it, right?
Yeah.
The doubt kind of quickly evaporates once you start getting some rhythm. Just what? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think, it's a process. When I went in against LA, the next week was against the Giants in New York. And it was, it's a big rivalry. And it was a close game.
And was this a playoff game?
No, this was each game from this point on, gave us an advantage, whether it was a seed, a bye, or whatever it may be. So we had to win. We had to beat the Rams, then we had to beat the Giants, then we had to beat the Raiders to get a first-round bye, which is huge in the playoffs because then you just win the divisional and you're in the NFC Championship game, and you just got to win 2 games to get the Super Bowl. That's why you want it, and you get home field advantage. So this is what I think the first one clinched the playoffs against LA, and I think we got home field advantage the following game against the Giants. But that was funny because that was my first game back starting. And I think I had a really good game statistically, like 4 touchdowns, like maybe over 300 yards. We ended up coming back and winning the game. And, I feel pretty good. Like, it's a pretty solid game. And I remember the coaches being like, yeah, you're a little rusty. Yeah, I could tell you were a little rusty out there. I'm like, honestly, like, I could take that as like sort of like, oh wow, like I'm not, or I'd be like, man, y'all got high expectations for me. Like I just had 4 touchdowns and 300 yards or whatever it was, and we came back and won. But it made me realize the type of coaches we had. They were awesome. Every single day I'd go in there and I'd learn more, and they held us accountable. But it was a great group. A lot of former quarterbacks, in our QB room, Doug Peterson, Frank Reich, John DeFilippo, Press Taylor, our receiver coach, every coach, Stout, everyone was so good. All our coaches were so good on both sides of the ball. They brought it every single day. They put us in the best position to win. So, at the end of the season, we beat the Giants, we beat the Raiders. I play a quarter versus the Cowboys. Then I think we lose that game, but they were resting the starters. Going in the playoffs, we got a bye week, and that was a huge moment. That was a moment where the coaches got to sort of facilitate the offense around me and really look at my old film when I was with Chip Kelly, when I played my best, and be like, all right, how can we mold our offense plays we have to like Nick's philosophy and how he plays? And the key moment was this. Usually when you go out to practice, you have a script of plays you're going to run in the game, and you're going to a scout team. Doug switched it up on the bye week. He said, I remember Frank gave me a wristband with all the plays. Coach Wright gave me a wristband with all the plays for practice. He goes, we're not going to talk to you at all. You just go out there and no one's going to be in your ear. You read the plays how you want. All you got to do is read the play on the wristband. You're going against the starting defense all day. We don't know what they're going to run. We have no clue what their coverages are. I mean, we had an idea from training camp stuff, but it's like, just play. And I'm like, just play. Like, y'all are not talking to me. It was a weird thing that's not normal. So they're like, yeah, and read it however you want. You don't have to read it like we want to. Just dissect the defense. So I go in that practice and light it up, like have an amazing practice. And all of a sudden something starts like clicking to me, like, what is going on? So after practice, Frank's just smiling at me and goes, I knew that was going to work because you're a read, react quarterback. You're a basketball player. Like, we just need to give you a play you like and you'll tear anyone apart. You just do your thing. It's like, as opposed to like breaking down cover 2, this is what we're teaching, boom, boom, boom. It's like, no, you know this play. Like, run it and just execute it. That's what we did with Chip. We ran at such a high speed with Chip Kelly that there was no time to think. It was all read, react, read, react. Now, you can read, react because of your preparation and how many times you've rep plays. They just become second nature. So that's sort of what we did. And then it was the second half of the divisional game against the Falcons where all of a sudden I routed off a bunch of completions in a row and the game started slowing down. And I went to my subconscious thought. I was no longer present in my thinking thought, like where you're just constantly trying to think your way through. I was just ripping it, reacting. And there was nothing crazy that was going on, like completions-wise. I made like just efficient completions enough to get us through the game and win the game. But something switched in the second half where my mind and my body and everything was aligned. And was like, now you're ready to fire away. And the game after that was the NFC Championship game against the Minnesota Vikings.
Flow state.
That's the key. You got to get to the read, react, and it's a combination. Fortunately, I look back, I had great coaches that recognized that and didn't force me to do what they thought was best. They said, you know what, we're going to build this around you and put you in the best position to succeed, because they knew at the end of the day they needed to put me in that position. They weren't on the field playing, so like, how can we make Nick play at the level we know he's played at in the past, and let's bring it out right now. And during this time, I'm also dealing with my elbow. So like my elbow, my arm, I'd say
your elbow's still hurting at this time.
It didn't heal till the following offseason. So, like, my arm strength and my arm ability at that time was at best 75%, maybe 80% in the Super Bowl because of the adrenaline. But it was plenty enough to, like, just let it rip. Like, Super Bowl, I was actually really – I don't know. The pain was very minimal, and I just could play. But we'll get to that in a little bit. We got the NFC Championship. I don't know what you want to know about that.
So I want to know, during this time, did you feel – from when you took over to then up to this NFC Championship game, do you feel that the city and your locker room immediately had your back, or did you have to earn their trust?
Fortunately, I had been there before. Drafted there, was there through 14, had some great years, was a Pro Bowl player, took us to the playoffs, lost to New Orleans, unfortunately. So there was a history there, thank goodness. That really helped during this time, especially when I stepped in the huddle. Those guys had played with me, most of them at a very high level. They had been in the 7-touchdown game. They had been when I went 27-2, had a good playoff game, all those things. So they knew that I had that in me. So I didn't have to create that confidence in them. But yeah, I would say in the facility, I did not feel doubt. I just felt like guys were confident. They had my back. They knew that I could do it because the defense, I went against went against the defense every day. They had seen me. They knew me before. Outside the talking heads, like everyone doubted. I would not say Eagles fans doubted. I would say that they were worried in the sense of like Carson Wentz goes down, potentially the MVP of the league that year. I would worry too. If that happens. So they had reason to, but they always believe in their Eagles. They're tough on their Eagles, but that's part of playing in Philly. Like, they are, but like that's why when you go out there and you find ways to win and you're getting ready for a Super Bowl, you're not going to have a better fan base in the world. And that's why I was so grateful for it, because when we could create the energy and create the belief through execution on the field, the fans just created a crazy atmosphere in the NFC Championship game. And that's sort of where that, we were talking about doubt and fear and stuff. There was an overly confident conversation that I'll share with that Tori and I had at dinner one time leading up to that. She was asking me about the Minnesota Vikings game. She was like, hey, this might have been like Friday night, date night before the game. And she's like, how do you feel about this week? Like, NFC Championship game, like, what do you see? I go, honestly, watching film, preparing for these guys, I've never seen a better defense in my entire life. Like, this team is really, really good. They have, like, no explosive plays the entire season. I've never seen anything quite like it, honestly, in my entire NFL career. They're amazing. She goes, oh, my gosh, like, are we about to get killed? I go, oh, no, we're going to kill them, and we're going to – I feel great about it. But I'm just telling you, like, going into this, I have so much respect for this team, and they're so good. But we're going to beat them bad. And she laughed. To this day, she, like, tells that story. And she's like, couldn't believe it because how I was talking about them, she did not expect me to be like, oh, I was like, no, we're going to win the game. I'm just saying that they're great. So we go into the game, and we ended up winning 38-7. And I think we had more explosive plays in that entire game than they gave up the entire season. And a lot of that was obviously fueled by, defensive plays early on. And then we were able to make some huge plays in the game offensively, and the crowd was insane. The crowd was so good. They're doing the skull chant. They changed it to Foles. The whole crowd's going crazy. I think my dad's up there going like this and going Foles, and he's having a blast. So just the energy of Philly in the NFC Championship game, much like last week, when they played the Commanders. It's just such an amazing atmosphere at when the lights go down and the link lights go up and the crowd's crazy. They might have had they might have consumed a little too much, but that's part of Philly, and it's just a special place.
Rod, let's see if we can get some NFC Championship Nick Foles versus the Vikings, because I'm surprised hearing about your elbow because you threw some bombs.
There were some dimes. Once again, I was reading and reacting. I was just playing ball, reading and reacting. Fun fact about that is, we'll get into the Philly special after this,
definitely.
But for fans that don't know or maybe haven't heard me talk or whatever about this, the Philly special was actually going to be ran in this game. There was a play later in the game. It might have been the last touchdown to Alshon Jeffrey in the back of the end zone. It was a play we called Mario. Doug asked me if we were going to run Philly special. You go with that. And I had actually taken a rib shot from Anthony Barr, and my ribs were busted. So, yeah, here we go. What we got here? Yep, this is a game. Little highlight. Let's see what we got.
Just precision.
Alshon Jeffrey, folks.
Surgical.
Matt Collins wearing shoes. He walks barefoot everywhere.
Look at that.
Zach Ertz, 3rd down 10.
Just the 3rd and 10 conversion with ease.
No, I think it's just this game, just, guys executing, making plays. O-line has always been tremendous there. The key to the Eagles has always been O-line, D-line. Those guys work their butts off. Their coaches do a great job. Coach Stoutland, the O-line coach, has been there forever. There's a lot of history of Eagles amazing greats. So I was very blessed. Like, every time I stepped into that huddle, I knew how fortunate I was to have those guys blocking for me and how much pride they took.
Why don't you run us through this?
This play,
Look at that.
Yeah, this play is amazing. So this is when the turning point happened. 7-14, 3rd and 10. I'm looking out here. The progression's over here. Pocket collapse. O-line does not stop blocking. Alshon Jeffrey changes his route and just goes, and I see him. This is when everything changed. We go up 21-7, and this play was huge. I even think I heard the TV copy one time. I think Troy Aikman was doing the game, just like, oh, man, this is amazing. Like, Alshon Jeffrey changing the route, boom. And this was just like a really special play. That was the epitome. This was the rib shot right there. That was the Anthony Barr rib shot for anyone watching on YouTube. And then I think shortly after that, 2 plays later, this is what we call them. My ribs are still a little tender. The flea flicker to Torrey Smith.
Oh.
So on the sidelines with the flea flicker on this play, everyone's like, no, because the deep cross with Nelson's like sort of popping open. That's sort of the thought is like, everyone's going to sort of take Torrey. Maybe it's not there. It's not clean. Nelson Aguilar, deep cross. I was just feeling it, man. I was feeling it. I saw this, and I knew I could pinpoint the ball. And Torrey makes an amazing catch on Harrison Smith, who, Harrison and I trained together coming out of college, training for the combine and everything. Amazing player, probably a Hall of Fame safety, I'd imagine. So these were just like really special plays from the game. Ertz, obviously a Hall of Famer right here.
Yeah,
just had an amazing game last week, against the Eagles being with the Commanders.
And ribs feeling a little tender.
This is where Frank Reich on the sideline knew I was feeling it when I scrambled and just hit Nelson like that. So all these plays are special. It was great confidence for our team, for the city, getting ready for the Super Bowl. But like winning this game and afterwards what's fun is we're with the family and it's late. Broad Street's crazy. They've greased up the poles so people can't climb, but they still find a way to climb. And we actually walked like by Broad Street after the game because we were going somewhere to eat with all the family in town. And it was a sight to behold. But it was really special, like after the game, getting to sit there with family and loved ones and just be there with like my mom and dad and my wife and my in-laws and aunts and uncles and just sort of take it in, my agents, and just breathe for a moment. I got to breathe for a second. Just be like, man, that was really special. That was a great moment. I got to take it in that night, and then the next day was preparation for the Super Bowl.
That's awesome. I think it sounds like you have an incredible level of self-awareness or just awareness in general, the ability to take a step back, which I think is so key because otherwise you can get lost in the chaos.
Yeah, it's going to be chaos at times. It's going to be high stress situations, but like when you're out of them, like take a breath for a moment before you get back into something. Because if you just keep going and living in that world, like it's hard. It's really hard. And it allowed me to recover emotionally for what was coming, because what was coming over the next 2 weeks was the hardest 2 weeks of football I've ever had.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. What do you want to know?
I mean, why? And I think the audience in general just wants to know. There's media frenzy, there's craziness, there's the game on top of it. There's also balancing your responsibilities as a father and as a parent. And how do you stay focused?
Yeah, it was, for people that don't know, you have that bye week before the Super Bowl. And the way we approached it was we did a normal prep week. So there wasn't, like a lot of times with the bye week, there's days off, there's rest. It's like the bye week before the playoffs, you run practice a little differently. Like I went against starters. This was different. We had now built the foundation. I had now acclimated. We had now figured out what we want to do going into the Super Bowl. So we took that week because we knew it was going to be chaos in Minneapolis. And we did a normal prep week, normal film study, normal everything. We're going to go through this week, and then we're going to have a bonus week going in the Super Bowl. So that week was all about preparation and preparing. And I think a key moment for that week, obviously, same thing at night, dancing with Lily, enjoying those times. Every Friday for my career, I would, as much as I could, I would take my wife on a date because that was my time with her. And I could spend that time just like out to dinner, eating, talking, maybe having a glass of wine. Just that was my time to like have that one drink and just like be with her. And we get back. This is the week before we go to Minneapolis, and I talked to my marketing agent, who's a great friend, Austin, and this is like one of our probably favorite stories. So we have this phone conversation, and there's a lot of marketing opportunities that go into the Super Bowl. I mean, you get paid a lot to represent a brand, do this, and what the brands do is they offer you like, hey, if y'all win, you get this, but if you lose, you still get this. You don't get a large amount if you lose, but you still get something. But that's why you agree before. So we have this like 20-minute call. There's a lot of great opportunities that I was very blessed to have. And I just said, hey, Austin, man, I appreciate that. Respectfully call all those companies and just say Nick is declining all of them. And just say that his focus is 100% on the Super Bowl, on beating the Patriots, on being, locking in, and he does not want any distractions. I don't care about the dollar sign or what that. Like, this is a childhood dream. This has taken a lot of work to play in the Super Bowl. This is a very special moment for everyone, my teammates, this city, these coaches. I'm going to need that. It'll only take away maybe 0.01% of my energy, but I'm going to need that in this game. And that does not matter right now. And I look back and, I've worked with a lot of great companies, super grateful, ended up doing marketing after the Super Bowl and all that. That was great, but I didn't want that going in because my focus was on beating the Patriots. So That was really key. And then we go, we fly out to Minneapolis, I think on Sunday, and then we got the media night on Monday. And I might have my schedule all wrong, but there's a lot of moving parts when you go there. And we practice at, the Minnesota Gophers facility, which was fantastic. And it's freezing outside. It's so cold. But thank goodness we had the indoor facility. And then the prep week started. And, we were set up in like ballrooms, and I always made coffee for guys. Like I was making the bulletproof coffee at the time with the grass-fed butter and the MCT oil and the collagen protein, and it was my way of serving. So I would make it for like 5 to 10 people each morning, early in the morning, as a way to juice us for the day. It was also a way for me to serve others, and I continued that at the Super Bowl. We actually bought like via Amazon like a coffee maker, and like I ordered all this bulletproof stuff, and like I still did it there, and I would take it to the different ballrooms to like Deuce Staley or Doug started drinking it the next year. He made fun of me that year for it, but then he liked it in 18. So, but Frank Reich, all the guys, the quarterbacks would drink it. So that was the way we started each day. And the funny part about it all was, we get paper documents, and I liked having everything on a tablet because that way I could have it years following. And I like those memories. Like I have the call sheet for the Super Bowl on here through my OneNote, and it's just, but any papers, like once you were done with them, they would take and they'd be like, we have to shred because we're playing against the Patriots, and we do not want. They're gonna hire a janitor or someone that's gonna come in here and take those and give them to them. So they were shredding everything.
Wow.
So we took precautions just to make sure, because they always like that competitive edge. And
Right.
But I was grateful that we got to go against the New England Patriots. You want to beat the best.
That's right.
So it was a really special week. I just remember being locked in all week. My wife, Tori, handled all the tickets. We got like 20 plus tickets for people. She was handling travel, everything in between, Lily coming to the game, parents coming in, in-laws coming in. So she handled all that, so I didn't even have to think about it. And then I was in Minneapolis for, 4 or 5 days before she got out there on the family plane. And then when she got out there, I got to see her and Lily, and, I got to have a lot of really special moments in Minneapolis with Lily.
Growing up playing football, was it always your dream to go to the Super Bowl?
I think it's every child's dream to play in the Super Bowl that loves football. And even if you don't love football and like you wish you could, like it's a dream. And that's why I wanted to, treat it accordingly with that respect. But also I didn't want to be like, I didn't want to think of it as the Super Bowl. I just wanted to think of it as like I'm playing against faceless opponents. It's a game I've played forever, and I just have to prepare, have a really good mindset of like what I like going into the game. Like we always like restructured our call sheets. I would rank my third downs, red zone, all those situations, so Doug knew what I was thinking. In my back pocket was always the Philly special. So that was always on my mind. And, there's a lot of people out there that, love that play. I love that play. But, I've been asked before, like, did anyone know about the play? Like, they know we were going to run it? And I did tell Tori before the game that, hey, if there's ever a situation, we didn't run in the situation I told her because we did it at a totally different time. But I'm like, if I'm ever over like looking weird, like by lane, just be aware something special is about to happen. The Philly special. So she knew going into that, and just that was always a really cool play.
Tell us about it.
Man.
When did you first practice it?
We practiced it going into the playoffs. We put it in against the bye week probably, and then we repped it the divisional round. There's a lot of acting and fine-tuning that was involved. We had to figure out what was the mechanism to get Jason to snap the ball. Because I was bad at the acting part because, like, you're just focusing on execution of the play, and now all of a sudden you got to act. So finally we fine-tuned it, and it was like, all right, hey, we're going to act like I'm audibling. So, like, hey, so what happened is, like, you line up, I shift Corey behind me, and then all of a sudden I act like I see something different. I'm like, hey, easy. Kill. So easy is telling the O-line, like, hey, something's about to happen. Do not snap the ball. Ears heighten. Kill means, hey, we're going to switch to the second play. We didn't have a second play. It was all just, like, theater. And then I went over like I had to tell Lane something, and I was like, Lane, because Lane's easy to yell at. I love Lane, but he's an easy one to yell at. But that's my guy. So, but the second lane was when Jason had to snap the ball to Corey. Corey then ran, flipped to the Trey. I hesitate a second. I run out in the flat. Trey, who's an high school quarterback and went to Florida as a quarterback, converted to tight end, amazing player, throws a dime, by the way, and we execute the play. But before all that, my favorite part of the play is it represents a lot of trust, a lot of history. We call a timeout in that situation on 4th and 1. I run over the Doug, and I say, you want Philly. And he said, and he pauses because, the headset goes quiet. Everyone's curious what's going on. Like, are we really going to run this play right now in the Super Bowl 4th and 1? Like, this is probably not the best play call. I didn't know that people didn't think that was the best play call until, like, I was in Philly a couple months ago and Jason made a joke at a thing we were speaking at. Kels was like, yeah, man, when we called that, I was like, what the heck are we doing? Like, and I'm like, dang, man, like, I thought it was an awesome play. Like, I'm going out on a route. Like, you see my hands in warm-ups. Like, it's going to be a great play. But he's like, man, you made me a believer. I'm like, man, I'm glad you didn't say that before we ref the play. But when he says, yeah, let's do it, Doug was the person that when I was before the draft, he flew out to Austin, Texas, worked me out at Westlake High School. He was the one coach that did that. Philly sent him down. I had that moment with him. Philadelphia drafts me. He's my quarterback coach my rookie year. So we developed a strong relationship then. And then when I came back to Philly, it was to help him succeed as a head coach. So in that moment, I have to believe that the history of trust that we have with one another from knowing each other, he believed in me because he knew I wouldn't go over there and ask for that in that moment unless if I didn't believe in myself and I didn't believe we could execute it. So that play means a lot more than just 6 points for me. It means, everything matters. Doug used to always talk about it. Every single thing you do matters. Every relationship matters. And you never know when you're going to be in a 4th and 1 in life when you got to turn to someone and ask them and they need to believe in you and you need to believe in them. And fortunately, I got that moment with Doug and I got that moment with my teammates. And we were able to come out on top and execute a play that's now one of the best plays in, Super Bowl history. It means a lot to the city of Philadelphia. They put a statue outside the city or outside the stadium commemorating that moment for the Philadelphia Eagles because it was a special moment in the history of the game. And I'm just grateful for it. But to me in that moment, it was 6 points. It meant nothing more than 6. I never thought it would be what it is.
I think we got it.
It would be crazy not to watch it.
So when you were practicing, did you guys nail it every time?
No, we didn't nail it every time. We only ran it full speed maybe twice.
So, Nick, this is that moment, right?
This is that moment when I run over there and I'm like, you want Philly, Philly? Yeah, let's do it. I got to ask Nate what he was thinking, though. I don't know if I talked to Nate. And the full play is called like float the pistol, target left bunch, Philly special on the dummy kill. But it was the lane cadence. That's the full play. NFL Films cut it out. We can say it on the podcast because I'm the one who said it. I didn't have a great celebration. I think I just yelled and screamed. And because in my mind, I wanted to celebrate for a second. This is how I was as a player. And then I get back to the sideline and I lock back in. Because you're going against the Patriots, you're going against Tom Brady, Belichick. Like, this isn't going to be enough. Like, this is a great momentum boost, but this will not be enough to win the game. So lock back in. Like, life goes on. The game goes on. Be ready for the next play. So, but I know it juiced up the defense, juiced up the team. Everyone's pretty excited. I mean, and I think what added to it, and Tom just alluded to this on the broadcast that he did the other day with Fox for the NFC Championship game. He said, Nick, I love you, man. Like, you caught it and I didn't. And it's funny because a couple plays before that, they ran a different Philly special that we ran the following year where he went out on the right side, right in front of where I was standing on the sideline, and he dropped it. And I remember thinking, I don't know, maybe that's the moment where it came up in my back pocket and I was really ready to do it. It sort of freshened it. So Tom dropping that ball really helped me be ready to run the Philly special and make sure I really looked it in. But that's not to dog Tom. That's just to have a little fun. Tom's the greatest. He's the GOAT. I think it's fun that we can laugh about it now. I mean, he's got plenty of rings to go around for everyone. And, I know he's on his broadcasting journey, which is always a new journey. But, I wish him the best.
It's awesome.
I have a quick question for you, Nick. Like you talked about it a little bit earlier, but there's obviously the hierarchy of the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the respect that goes into those figures. And you talked a little bit about how they let you run it in that one bye week and said just do your thing, read and react. But how much freedom did they give you? Like, what was that process like? Was it a full collaboration? Like, what was that? What was that like?
Yeah, the coaching staff that year, with really, Doug Peterson, Frank Reich, John DeFilippo, the way it goes about is you practice the plays throughout the week. You rep all these plays, and then you get back and you watch the film of practice. And then I had the freedom to like, hey, every day they'd be like, is there something you don't want in the game plan? Like, what do you not feel comfortable with? And I'd be like, I don't like this play. They'd be like, gone. Like, I'd be like, what do you really like here in the base down? So like Doug would always have me send him personally my favorite first, second down calls, my favorite play action movements. Like I'd star them and I give them the call sheet on Saturday of like all my rankings in red zone plays. So the way we break down a call sheet is like red zone, like 20 to 16, 15 to 11. And like there's plays in that area because defenses change coverages and they change methodologies in those areas. Same with third down, 3rd and 1 to 2, 3rd and 3 to 6, it's different each week, but you have breakdowns and I would rank them. So there's a lot of collaboration, and maybe there's even ideas that quarterbacks can be like, hey, I really like this. What if we do this sort of thing? But it was really tight. You know, they were so good with game planning and knowing me that I was really confident in everything they called. And my mentality in that game was, you know, my dad growing up, you know, dads preach, and I'm in this stage now with coaching my kids, and I'm getting it is like, you don't really listen to your dad, you listen to someone else, right? And then later in life, you're like, Dad, you were right. So props to Larry Foles. Going to the Super Bowl, I took what he used to always tell me is like, play as hard as you can. Don't look at the clock. Don't worry about the score. Just play as hard as you can. And when that clock hits 0, as long as you gave everything you had, that's what matters. So in the Super Bowl, I did the same thing. I was aware of the score. I didn't focus on the score. And I only worried about like I say shot clock because I'm a hooper. And then the game clock I wasn't super worried about because I didn't want to like think too much about where the Patriots were, how many points, because it might affect my decision making. Like if I'm like, oh my gosh, they're getting close, I'm going to tighten up. I'm going to just check it down. I just wanted Doug called a play. How do we execute this play to the fullest ability? Like aggressive without fear. And that was my prayer going into the game. It was not to win the game. It was to glorify God without fear. I didn't want to be fearful. And that was the best part about that game was through the coaches being great and the collaboration, through my faith, through the journey and everything, it was the most peaceful, fun, laid-back game I've ever played. I just felt content. I felt just there. I felt the crowd a little bit, but I didn't really feel the whole atmosphere of being in the Super Bowl because I was locked in, and I was just in that huddle with my guys. Doug would call a play, execute the play, move on.
And when that clock struck 0 and you realized that you were a Super Bowl champion, do you remember the first thing that crossed your mind, or what do you remember feeling?
There's a clip of me just like sitting there looking at everyone. There was like a Hail Mary. It was a last ditch effort. You know, before that, Brandon Graham has a strip sack, gets an extra 3 points to give us a little buffer with 8. Then Tom's marching, Hail Mary, ball sort of gets tipped up, as all Eagles fans remember and football fans remember, and then it hits the ground. So the ball hits the ground. I look up, see 0, 0, 0, like zeros everywhere. I then sit there. Everyone like sort of pauses and rushes the field, and I just sit there and just put my hand over my hat, and I just like am in disbelief that we just won the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, for the Philadelphia Eagles and the city of Philadelphia and everyone involved. And then it just chaos occurs, and like you're running around, you're celebrating with people real quick. You're hugging your teammates. I'm hugging all of them. I remember hugging Jason and Brent and Coach Peterson, Coach Reich, Spencer Phillips, all my teammates, defensive guys. And all of a sudden then you're rushed over to like media, but then we have the stage before you go on the stage and get the host and Lombardi trophy. And that was cool. That was sort of a calm before the intense storm. Was like we got a moment right before the stage. And that's one of my favorite moments is when – we're at the stage, we're about to go on. Tori and I were talking, and she's holding Lily, and we had just decided we're going to Disney World right before that because I did not agree to any marketing situations. And Disney needed to know, like, is Nick going to Disney? So Tori came up to me before the stage, and Lily's like, hey, are you going to Disney? I go, what? Like, I'm going to the stage. Like, it's right here. Like, no, like, we need to know if you're going to – and she started laughing. My agent came over and whispered something in my ear, and I was like, yeah. I didn't know like what was going on because I was just focused on stage. And so right then and there, we shot the Disney World commercial. Like, I'm going to Disney, which is like a childhood dream. Like, how cool is that? And then going on the stage, I just felt fitting in that moment. Like, just thinking I have my daughter there. Like, I was like, do I take, like, we were talking, I was like, I would love to take her on stage. Is that like, okay? And she's like, yeah. A guy I looked up to, Drew Brees, took, I believe his son on stage when he won a Super Bowl, and we both went to Westlake High School. And I always remembered that moment when he had his son with the headphones on. And I was like, man, that's so cool that he has his kid on stage and this moment. So I got to bring Lily on stage, similar moment that Drew had, but I got to have it with my daughter. And one of the coolest parts about it is, my identity is not in the game of football. It's not in the Lombardi Trophy. It's not even as in Philadelphia Eagles. It's as my faith in Christ and my relationship with Christ. So in that moment, as I was holding my daughter, which was my favorite thing on stage, the trophy is great, but it's a trophy. I got to hold my daughter, represent the Lord, and then I got to hoist the trophy in a representation as what the city and the team did for Philadelphia to provide them with the first Super Bowl through trials and tribulations and a journey. That was a really special moment. And there's a famous picture of me holding Lily pointing out into the crowd. And everyone's like, oh, man, that's like a cool photo. I think it got like photo of the year and all these things. But what people don't realize is I was dad mode. Like I was full dad mode. I was pointing to Press Taylor holding his daughter Teal in the crowd. And I was like, because that was Lily's little buddy. I'm like, hey, look, Lily, there's Teal. And they're like over there like waving. But that photo became famous. And like the context is I was being a dad. That's what was most important. And it was it's always an honor to be a part of that team, a part of bringing the first Super Bowl to Philadelphia. And I couldn't have done it without amazing teammates, an amazing organization, coaches, and then the support of the city. So it's fun getting to share a lot of the inside scoop of everything that goes on. There's so much more, but there'll be plenty of time to talk about more.
So did you guys go to Disneyland though?
That's what you want to know, right?
That's the burning question.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously there's a lot of media stuff after. I think you just want to know what's going on now. So I do all the media stuff. There's the after party. I wasn't there long because my family went there. I wanted to see my family and embrace my dad and my mom and just all those things. So I went back to the hotel. I didn't have any alcohol that night because I knew I'd have a lot of speaking the next day and I probably wouldn't sleep. So we had kombucha on tap. That was a big thing that year, is kombucha on like a beer tap. So you felt like you were drinking a beer, but you're drinking a kombucha. So my marketing agent and I went and got kombucha. We were up all night planning things, and then I slept for like maybe 30 minutes, woke up, did my Super Bowl MVP press conference, completely exhausted. And then we jump in a car service and go to Disney on the Disney jet in Disney World. And we get to do the Disney tour, like literally like land in Orlando, get in a car service. I am literally on a float with Mickey and Minnie Mouse, like that. Like, and all of a sudden, like there's Eagles fans everywhere. We're going down the main strip. I do interviews in front of the castle with like ESPN. Lily's first time getting like a Disney toy or like a Mickey or Minnie Mouse was from Mickey or Minnie Mouse at Disney World. So it's always fun looking back at those photos. And then late that night, we land back in Philly. And I don't think I slept for days because I was adrenaline. I hit up my buddy Spencer Phillips. He's one of our quality control coaches. He coaches high school ball in Oregon. Shout out Spencer. I know you're going to listen to this. I love you. I hit him up. I'm like, hey man, like, what do you think about going to the facility? No one will be there. Everyone's probably hungover. We're not. Let's go play pickleball and let's lift weights and let's jam some country music. So we literally go to the facility. We make our own pickleball court in the weight room, like with tape. There was a net. And we played pickleball and we lifted because I had so much adrenaline. I just wanted to like work and do that, jamming music. And there was a few people there, not many, that were going crazy, but we got like 4 hours of time there. And then I went home and just embraced the family. And then we had the Super Bowl parade and it was just a whirlwind. And then, we're flying back home. I'm back in dad mode and it was wild. But just looking back, the episode, being a Super Bowl father, there's a lot of like Super Bowl moments that are so special. And I'm just so glad, like when I'm, with Lily and she gets to reminisce, someday I'll get to share with her, like the journey of like what I really learned throughout it all is, my faith in Christ surrounded everything I did. Your mom has been such an instrumental piece of everything we do. We're a team. And I always want to represent that for our kids is like our marriage is, we want them to see that. Like just yesterday, I'm like, hugging Tori around the kitchen and the kids are giggling and they're like, she's like, he won't let me go. She's like, Dad's just going to go with you everywhere. But I want them to see that. And then just loving and having fun, but just talking about the trials and tribulations. And when you get knocked down, get back up and having, whenever Lily plays sports right now and, Duke's getting into sports and eventually Bodie is, my thing is always be a great teammate and hustle. That's it. And we'll build off that. So there's a lot of lessons through that year that I'll get to teach my kids eventually. But they don't know me as like winning the Super Bowl. I never flaunt it. Like I'm wearing the ring now. It's a little fun. It's probably the second time I've ever worn the ring. I keep it hidden. I don't look at it because it's a part of what I've done. It's not who I am. And what I want to be is ultimately a great husband to Tori and a great father to my children. And as long as I do that, whatever else I do is a bonus. So
I continue to be inspired by you, Nick. Thank you for sharing this story.
No, I appreciate it, man. And I know, are we doing a quote of the day?
I think, yeah, sometimes we do dad jokes. Sometimes we do a quote.
Today, I think, there's a lot of impact. I love the dad jokes. I'm going to give you a day off.
Okay.
Day off today.
Take a rest day.
And in honor of Philadelphia and a Philadelphia great and someone I admire, Kobe Bryant, this quote is so powerful that he said is, if you're afraid to fail, then you're probably going to fail. And I think that's so true to life. And, you can't approach things out of fear. We do. I do at times. But you have to realize, fear is not the way to go about it. Going to the Super Bowl, my big prayer was, God, I just want to lean on you, and I want to be fearless without fear. And, with my perspective and my mind and my heart on my relationship with him, it allowed me to do so. And I have to remind myself each and every day to not live in fear, but live in the light, live with joy through trials, and find the positive in things. And then when you're going through struggles and you're going through trials, take a breath, take a moment, find that person that you can really lean on if you need to download and talk to them, and then just take the next step, just a little step. That's it. I learned a lot through this journey of what happens when you get paralyzed in a state where you're not moving and you're struggling. And what God says is just keep moving. I'm right there with you. I'm with you. Just move. So that's the quote of the day. If you're afraid to fail, then you're probably going to fail. Kobe Bryant. This has been a fun episode. Always fun hashing it out on the No Days Off by Dad Season podcast. John and Roddy, appreciate you guys.
Hey, we appreciate you. And we got a lot more coming, everyone. So stay tuned. Boom.